The day my world cracked open wasn't loud or dramatic. It happened quietly, in a room painted a calming shade of blue, with a ticking clock and a man who was paid to listen while I tried to remember how to breathe again. I walked into therapy thinking I was broken beyond repair. I walked out months later realizing the real fracture wasn't inside me at all. It was in the space between the woman I loved and the man who helped me survive losing her. Before the story truly begins, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the idea that even broken people deserve healing, please take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. I met Emily on a rainy afternoon in Seattle, the kind of rain that seeps into your bones and makes the city feel like it's holding its breath. She worked at a small bookstore near Pike Place Market, and I was killing time after a failed job interview pretending I enjoyed browsing when really I was just avoiding my empty apartment. Emily had a quiet warmth about her, the kind that didn't demand attention but slowly earned it. We bonded over secondhand, paperbacks, bad coffee, and the shared exhaustion of trying to build a life that never quite matched the blueprint we were promised. She was thoughtful, stubborn, compassionate to a fault, and when she smiled, it felt like a small promise that things could get better. For a while, they did. We built routines that felt safe: Sunday morning pancakes, late night walks, long conversations about nothing and everything. But beneath the surface, I was unraveling. Anxiety followed me everywhere, a constant hum that turned into panic when I least expected it. Sleepless nights became normal. My temper shortened. I withdrew without meaning to, and Emily noticed before I did. She suggested therapy gently, like offering a hand to someone standing too close to the edge. I resisted at first, convinced that admitting I needed help was the same as admitting defeat. Eventually, exhaustion won. That's how Dr. Aaron Miles entered our lives, though at the time, I didn't think of him as someone who could change everything. He was calm, professional, and carried himself with a steady confidence that made you feel less alone just by sitting across from him. Our sessions were intense, uncomfortable, and slowly transformative. He helped me name fears I'd buried for years, guided me through memories I'd avoided, and taught me how to sit with pain instead of running from it. Therapy became the one place where I felt understood without being judged. Emily came up often in those sessions, not as a problem but as a pillar. I talked about my fear of losing her, my guilt over how my anxiety affected her, and my constant worry that I wasn't enough. Dr. Miles encouraged me to be honest with her, to let her see the parts of me I was ashamed of. What I didn't realize was that honesty, once unleashed, doesn't always stop where you expect it to. Emily started attending a few joint sessions at my request. I thought it would help her understand what I was going through. At first it did. She learned the language of anxiety, the patterns, the triggers. But she also began to change in subtle ways. She spoke more openly about her own struggles, feelings of invisibility, the pressure she carried, the dreams she'd postponed for years. Therapy gave her a voice, and Dr. Miles listened with the same focused attention he gave me. I noticed the shift before I understood it. Emily began mentioning therapy more often, quoting insights, reflecting on her emotions with a clarity that felt new. She decided to continue individual sessions on her own, something I encouraged, proud of her for choosing growth. I trusted the process completely. I trusted the therapist. I trusted us. What I didn't trust was the quiet distance that started to grow between Emily and me. It wasn't dramatic or cruel. It was subtle, like a dimmer switch slowly turning down the light. Our conversations lost depth. Our routines felt forced. She seemed distracted, thoughtful in a way that didn't include me anymore. I blamed myself, convinced my healing was costing her something she couldn't articulate. The truth surfaced on an ordinary Tuesday evening, the kind that should have been forgettable. Emily sat across from me at our kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug she wasn't drinking from. Her eyes were red, not from crying, but from the kind of restraint that comes after holding back tears for too long. When she finally spoke, her words fell heavy between us. She told me she was confused, that therapy had opened doors inside her she didn't know existed, and that somewhere along the way her feelings had crossed a line she never intended to approach. She fell for my therapist. The words didn't register at first. They sounded absurd, like a bad plot twist in a show I would have turned off halfway through. But as reality settled in, it felt like the air had been punched out of my chest. This wasn't betrayal in the traditional sense. There was no affair, no secret meetings, but the pain was just as sharp. The man who helped me rebuild my mind had unknowingly become the place where my partner's heart wandered. I spiraled in ways I hadn't since before therapy. Rage mixed with shame, confusion tangled with grief. I questioned everything. My progress, my judgment, my worth. Therapy had taught me to sit with discomfort, but this was different. This was deeply personal, layered with irony so cruel it felt intentional. I stopped attending sessions altogether, unable to face the space that now felt contaminated. Emily was honest in a way that hurt more than lies ever could. She told me she didn't act on her feelings, that she recognized them as inappropriate and planned to stop therapy immediately. But feelings don't vanish just because you know they shouldn't exist. And knowing she had found something in someone else, especially someone who knew me at my most vulnerable, broke something inside me that I wasn't sure could be fixed. The weeks that followed were some of the darkest of my life. Emily moved out temporarily to give us both space. My apartment felt hollow, every room echoing with memories of what we used to be. I battled the urge to numb myself, to retreat into old habits. Instead, I forced myself to confront the pain head-on, even when it felt unbearable. I journaled obsessively, went on long walks through the city, and leaned on friends I'd neglected for too long. Slowly, clarity began to emerge from the chaos. I realized that Emily's feelings weren't about Dr. Miles as a person, but about what he represented. Safety, understanding, validation. Therapy had given her a mirror, and she mistook the reflection for the source. It didn't excuse the hurt, but it reframed it. We were both products of a system that encourages healing without always preparing people for the emotional intensity that comes with it. Months later, we sat down together again, not as the couple we once were, but as two people trying to decide what came next. We talked honestly about our wounds, our growth, and the painful truth that love sometimes changes shape when exposed to too much light. There was no dramatic reconciliation, no cinematic kiss. There was acceptance. We chose to part ways, not out of anger, but out of respect for who we were becoming. I returned to therapy eventually, with a different therapist, carrying both scars and lessons. I learned that healing isn't linear, that trust can be rebuilt even when it's been shattered, and that losing someone doesn't mean losing everything you gained along the way. Emily and I stayed in touch occasionally, our conversations gentle and reflective. She found her path, and I found mine. If you've made it this far, and this story has touched your heart even a little, please pause for a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to support more real, emotional stories like this. Before the ending, I have one special request. Please comment below and tell me, do you believe some relationships are meant to heal us, even if they don't last forever? Today, when I look back, I don't see the story as a tragedy. I see it as a reminder that growth often comes disguised as loss, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go of what no longer fits the person you're becoming. She fell for my therapist, yes. But through that heartbreak, I finally learned how to stand on my own, whole and unafraid of the future.